everyone, welcome to another video for an energy healer's guide to spiritual awakening. I'm Marnie, I'm the energy healer and spiritual coach over on my online platform earthhearthealing.com. I offer one-on-one sessions for empaths, lightworkers, starseeds, lineage healers, anyone who is leaning into the science of the energy field or is sensitive and wants to learn more about working with the energy field. I offer healing support along those lines. So if you're interested, you can book in a free clarity call, a 20-minute clarity call to see if I am able to help you in your circumstance move forward into your divine blueprint and into a lighter, brighter, more expanded sense of self. Of course, we have to go into the shadow and really heal the traumas that are located in our subconscious to really deeply do the work. There's an involution and evolutionary process. And if that sounds like your jam, book a clarity call and let's connect. All right, today I'm talking about moving on from narcissistic abuse. It seems heavy hitting to say narcissistic abuse. You know, if you watched any of my previous videos, I like to bring things up into a kind of healing space where there's non-judgment. Just full acceptance for what is doesn't mean that we have to perpetuate the woundings, but it is a way to really look at things without resistance or attachment and just really be able to drop into the reality of what's existing for us. So if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know this. I'm healing from the end of a relationship, or the end of a dating experience with somebody that I fell in love with. And I've really been tracking a lot of the trauma bonding and also linking it back into the origin point of my childhood. So it was really interesting to be able to experience the full release of the pain, the crying, and the hurt when I would take the emotional data away from the person I was dating in the present moment and put it back onto my father. So I grew up in a addictions, narcissistic type of family dynamic with a high functioning family member. So, you know, we were definitely on the material level, like fully covered. And it's interesting. I find that people who have physical wealth, it's often overlooked, like the mental and emotional pain and suffering that might be hidden behind closed doors. You know, when somebody is suffering from addiction and there's poverty, a lot of the time there are more eyes on that family for support from the outside. But when we have a lot of financial stability, it almost self-contains the pain and suffering in that space. So, you know, that was my experience growing up. And I've really been coming to terms with lately, hey, I am a mid-30s woman. I've been single for most of my life. I am smart, loving, kind, good-hearted, and yet I have so much, well, you know what? At some levels, it's like I'm so comfortable being single and loving life and just being able to do whatever the heck I want, whenever the heck I want to do it. And on the flip side, I'm like, hey, what if I want to have kids? Why can't I figure out this kind of like love dynamic? What is going on? Why am I always pulling through so much pain when I fall in love? And not even just that, why are my falling in love moments so far away from what I really truly want? And what I mean by that is the people I tend to fall in love with are, of course, leaning into that, well, I've discovered lately, leaning into that kind of narcissistic way of seeing and perceiving the world. And if you want to learn more about how these people think, I would recommend Lee Hammock, Joe Dispenza, and also Jordan Peterson for their way they speak to the wounded empath and narcissistic dynamic. And it's very insightful. for me, this time around, my third time around with this love lesson, I really feel like I got to the root. I hit the soul level of things. I gained so much wisdom, and grateful for it all, even though there was so much pain. So with any heartbreak, if you're someone out there who's like just in that space where, and I was there maybe a month ago, like just not even wanting to live your own life because you're so attached to the reality of the other person. And that's a tendency of the empath to just link into the magnetism and outward personality and go get it kind of the ego level of their narcissistic partner. Because often what happens in childhood when we have a narcissistic family member, narcissism is related to control of other people, and it's not like always a conscious thing. Oftentimes it's just the unconscious subconscious of that person, because the core of it energetically is that there's so much trauma, just like the wounded empath has a lot of trauma that needs to be overcome. We all have to do the work, so that's what I'm speaking to today. But for the narcissistic person, the trauma that creates their energy field basically cuts them off from their divine inner child, which is the source and the elixir of our spirit. So if we don't have connection to our own elixir of life force, the spout of it, right, that should permeate through the body and help us really understand what it means to be human, to love ourselves, to love others, to treat people in a loving way and in a holistic way, right? Considering that humans are innately good. I mean, that's been my perception over the years. I like to bring forward how a baby comes into this world, and usually they smell good, their eyes are sparkling. When they giggle, we all want to pay attention. Of course, there's crying because there's polarity in this world and dualism, but you know, babies don't come in with sharp teeth. They don't try and destroy you. They're just this bundle and ball of sweet joy when the love is fully connected from them to their surroundings and the people around them. So we are a grown-up version of that, and the divine inner child is our connection to our innate source point as a human being with a human soul or a service to others volunteer soul. If you're someone watching this who is a starseed or light worker, or feels like an old soul or super empath or like extra empathic, a lot of the time there's another aspect to this healing that I guess I can bring in that I didn't think to bring in. It's that when we're volunteers and really light oriented spirits, to see the darkness on this planet, to really see it with discernment and honesty and truth, it's like another veil is being lifted away from our eyes, you know, to really see that people might be taking advantage of us for our goodness and our purity. And for me, I had such big emotional healings related to growing up in a way with a narcissistic family member, and then having to create certain masks of sweetness and tunnel vision to only see certain versions of that person, which are just aspects of the masks they were wearing, and to not see the rest of it, to cope with life. And also, if that person is only wanting their children to see a certain aspect of them, then that's kind of what's going to be created in the early years, the early stages of life. However, if we don't grow up from that as powerful light worker individual healing souls, we're always going to be less than our potential, because we need to be able to develop our personality in the way we can learn this from the narcissist, to develop our outer doingness and ability to function in life, in business, in relationship, in friendship, in grounding onto this planet and really facing the reality that exists. I don't know why, but I have a guidance from my spirit that I'm going into the mainstream world. So the more I ground, the more I listen, the more, I guess, earthy and I want to use the word grounded again, but yeah, grounded the guidance becomes to, fully function as a human being in this world. So, what I wanted to go over today was what I noticed as trauma responses with these 3 relationships that I had over a span of 10 years, and to acknowledge that stepping into our trauma response with a level of witness and discernment can be healing. So I never noticed it until this last round of relating with somebody, falling in love, with having a trauma bond experience, and then undoing it. But after tracking that, I was like, wow, look at the different trauma responses that I played out as a way to heal from the previous 2 relationships. So something about me, if you potentially maybe read my book or you want to read my book, I have, ever since I woke up in 2012, I've acknowledged and noticed a freeze response around my heart. So if I could include that kind of perpetual freeze state that is slowly and steadily undoing itself, then I'm hitting on all 4 of the trauma responses, which might be helpful for this video just to explain the growth that can come from witnessing our own trauma responses and experiencing them. So the freeze response has been a perpetual aspect within my heart space and nervous system around the heart. I feel like physical exercise and yoga and breath work can slowly and steadily chip away at this freeze response. And, if you think about trauma responses as also like creating our physical expression, I can say that my body was very shut down. I still have like some like nervous system repatterning when it comes to sports and feeling comfortable with choreography or even like exercises like lifting weights and understanding how to move. I always get kind of a bit of a scramble in my brain, which is an interesting thing to overcome. So I've been working at this for more than a decade, and my flexibility has improved, and then our physical body has a divine blueprint that is reflective of health and wellness and alignment, and it's only the trauma responses and the imbalances that we are holding on to from lineage stuff, from karma, that's creating the misalignment. So the deeper we go energetically, the more healed and healthy our physical expression will become as well, if we're going right from the root. That means to heal things spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and finally physically. And we can tap into different angles of that using our own intuition and discernment. You can kind of access trauma from all the levels, and choosing which one to do first is totally up to you and your intuition. Although it's important to, at some point, kind of touch on all of them to really get things out from the root. So that's the freeze response. The flight response was from my first experience of this trauma bond. So basically what happens is I experience this kind of like cool as a cucumber kind of way of relating, having a bit of judgment on the person, but not like I don't like you, just like I'm not sure what I think, what I feel, and so that keeps a bit of a boundary for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden something happens where I get love bombed in just the right way, that something opens and I kind of become a broken, sad little young girl. And it usually corresponds with that person not showing me devotion, not showing me physical devotion, wanting to be with other women and not telling me kind of upfront, or thinking that physical connection isn't as sacred as maybe I perceive it in the subconscious, and this is causing a lot of pain in the energy field. So I think as I'm speaking to this, there's like a little more to... So I realize as I'm speaking to this, there's definitely more for me to uncover related to those themes. But for now, just talking about the trauma bond. So the first time that happened, I basically ran away into a different city in Canada that's 5 hours away. I stopped being friends with the people that were in that circle, like fully pretty much. And yeah, I just fully ran away. The embarrassment and the shame that I felt caused me to run. And then I started a whole new chapter of my life, which was also on purpose. I mean, there's layers to everything. But that was the first experience. The second one was fawning, where I felt that for my healing, the best thing to do would be to become friends with my ex-partner. And, you know, I really felt like that was an accomplishment to move through all the pain and become friends with the person that I once was in love with. And it seemed to work. It felt like I fulfilled moving on with that growth process, but also I never realized that it could be considered a fawn response. Like, why am I going to be friends with somebody who hurt me, you know? But it felt like the right thing to do at the time, and it did help me to move forward. And I think it really is an evolution. If we can stay on a soul level friends with the person and not feel like any pain attached to them anymore, I think that's like a pretty good indication that we've healed and moved on. The last person, I was surprised, and I also feel quite empowered by the whole process, is that I hit on the fight response. So if the theme was like not seeing the divinity in like physical romantic relating, and then just kind of dropping someone and moving on to the next person, I got angry this time, and I said, if you can do it, why can't I do it too? You know, why can't I go for it too? And you know what it meant was getting on Tinder, getting on the dating apps, and just experiencing what it might be like to put myself out there, even though I was still healing from like the pain of the previous connection. And I started to learn surfing. I started to go to the town where I was kind of waiting for that person to bring me over there. And I just went there myself, and I kind of just went, I'm just gonna do the stuff that I wanted to do with you that they never let me do. And I guess what I decided was just to go into the space where I always felt like I was waiting for their approval to bring me into the town or into the community. And then I was like, I'm just gonna explore this by myself. I'm just gonna, you know, go for all the things that I was waiting to have like a door open for me, and just go for it on my own. And as Lee Hammock says, glow up and show up in my own life. And it's funny what became of like going on all the dating apps and talking to a bazillion people. It's like at first I was like, yeah, let's do this, you know, like who's gonna show up, what's gonna happen? And then I just got a bit tired of it and realized, hey, it's time for me to level up in my own life and get the things, get all the pieces of my life that I was needing to get done before I met this person, to bring them back to the forefront and to really put myself first and feel like a full individual again. And without having that fight response and going on the dating apps and just going for it, I don't think I would be where I am today. So that's where I just want to, give that tip to you guys, that if you are healing from a breakup and wanting to move forward, listen to your innate responses. Everyone's are going to be different, but listen to them and see if you can follow through on that that movement of energy, even if it is a trauma response, but in a state of witness, so that you're starting to really heal from the nervous system level. and self-reflect and go slow. But don't resist just because you're like, oh, now I'm in a trauma bond expression, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to resist these things. We need to walk through them in a state of presence. So that's my advice for today, for moving on, I guess, trauma bonds and moving on from narcissistic love. If you have any questions, of course, you can send them to me through my email. It's at the end of the video. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate each and every one of you who's resonating with the content. If you want to book a clarity call, you can go over to earthhearthealing.com and book in for a 20-minute free intro talk to see if I might be a good fit for you and your glow up and show up in life. So sending you all so much love. I'll talk to you next time.
Sacred